Welcome to the poshest manifesto launch ever.
My lords, pray be seated.
Normally political parties launch their election campaign in community centres, slightly stale events spaces with undrinkable coffee and worse pastries. The Conservatives launched their manifesto against the grander golden backdrop of the House of Lords, roping the Queen in for good measure.
As the United Kingdom leaves the European Union, my government will ensure that it continues to play a leading role in global affairs, defending its interests and promoting its values.
The problem is we don't know how, when or even if Britain is going to leave the EU. Even if Boris Johnson does get a deal agreed in Brussels and then he gets Parliament to pass it on their Super Saturday sitting this weekend, there is no chance of him getting the 22 bills he got the Queen to announce through the House of Commons. But what it does tell us is how the Tories plan to fight the next election as and when it comes.
My government will bring forward measures to protect individuals, families and their homes.
One of the weird quirks of the state opening of Parliament is that as all MPs walk from the Commons to the Lords, they have to make awkward conversation with each other. Boris Johnson chatting to Jeremy Corbyn, and even weirder, Theresa May talking to Grant Shapps, who tried to oust her as Prime Minister after she had that terrible conference speech with a cough. So aside from Brexit, there seem to be three strands of the Tory election strategy. On law and order, the NHS, and then slightly cuddlier stuff like the environment. On law and order, there's lots of hardline lock-em-up rhetoric, particularly for sex offenders and murderers. There's a big focus on immigration, including sending home foreign offenders as well. On the NHS, there's a big promise of money and investment in the NHS. Boris Johnson trying to finally come good on his promise that he famously wrote on the side of the Vote Leave bus.
Thank you for coming. Can you hear me?
There's some nods to helping low-income voters, particularly those in Labour Leave areas that the Tories really need to win over, with the promise of protection for waiting staff and retail workers so they can keep more of their own money.
My government will take steps to make work fairer, introducing measures that will support those working hard.
The Prime Minister saves his highest praise for the new Environment Bill, which he calls the huge star of his entire legislative programme, from tackling single-use plastics to cleaning up the air we breathe and the water we drink. It's been heavily influenced by eco-campaigner Carrie Symonds, who just happens to be the Prime Minister's girlfriend. So after all the pomp and pageantry, the ermine and tiaras in the House of Lords, it was back to the House of Commons and the real politics. We got the taste of how the Tories plan to fight the next election.
Let's not wait. We can't wait. Let's get Brexit done.
Boris Johnson saying that voters don't want to wait. But they're going to have to wait because we don't know when the next election is going to be. In the old days, a Queen's speech being voted down would have brought down the government. But now the Fixed Term Parliaments Act means there are only two ways an election could be triggered. 2/3 of all MPs could vote for one. That requires opposition parties to be on board. They say they want to wait until they know that no-deal Brexit has been taken off the table. Or half of MPs vote to have no confidence in the government. But that means putting Jeremy Corbyn into Downing Street, at least for a couple of weeks, to see if he can form a government instead. There was lots of fire and fury from Jeremy Corbyn, dismissing the whole thing as a farce, but there's still no sign that he's willing to give Boris Johnson the election that he wants.
We don't trust the Prime Minister.
All of which means it was nice that the Queen turned up in Parliament. We've not seen her for 2.5 years, but what she announced was not a programme for government, it was Boris Johnson's election manifesto. And for all of the 22 bills wrapped up in the pomp and ceremony of the state opening of Parliament, nothing will have an impact on Boris Johnson's electoral fate, quite like his ability to actually deliver Brexit.